Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock. It's time for another video. Now today I'm going to be talking about the best close-up magic tricks for kids of all time. Now I think this is one of the most important videos that I've put together on Magic TV, and let me explain why. I get so many questions from people that are close-up magicians. They've never performed for kids and they're getting booked for events like private parties or weddings where there's going to be a bunch of kids there, and they want to know what they have to do to deal with those kids. Because here's the thing, if you're booked for a private party, let's say it's a summer party, there's 40 or 50 people invited around a nice big house, and there's 10 kids there, the client's going to expect you to perform for the kids. And I think it's nice to be able to perform something for the kids. You need to know how to actually deal with the children you're performing for, else they'll follow you around. I'm sure every single close-up performer has been at a wedding or something like that, where the kids just follow them around from table to table. And unless you have experience performing for kids, how do you deal with that? What do you do, right? It's a very difficult situation. So here's the thing. We don't need this list, because honestly, most tricks that you perform for adults, you can perform for kids. If it's just a group of kids, you can change the presentation slightly and make it something that's more accessible for the kids, and we'll talk about this later on. Or if there's a bunch of adults and kids there, you just perform it as you would for the adults, and the kids will enjoy it as well. Kids don't like being talked down to a lot of the time. And almost every trick, as long as it's not a long, boring card trick, as long as you're not doing like a 19-phase oil and water, or out of this world or something like that, or doing hardcore mind reading, a lot of the tricks that will work for adults will also work for kids. However, there are certain specific tricks that work really well for kids. And my belief, when you're performing close-up for kids, you need to make sure of two things. The first thing is you need to make sure that it's something that they relate to, that they can enjoy, that they can understand, but also it needs to be something that if there's adults watching as well, they're going to enjoy it. So, you don't want to crack out your dippy duck, for example, because immediately the adults that are watching are just going to look at you as a kid's entertainer. And if you've been booked primarily as a close-up magician, you don't want to come across as a kid's entertainer. You don't want to start like doing, die box or something like that. But you do want to do something that the kids will enjoy and understand as well. And, you're going to get yourself into situations a lot. Let's say a wedding, for example. I've been at weddings many, many times where there's like a couple of tables that have just got kids on, and they expect you to go to those tables. Well, what are you going to do? Because there's hardly any adults. You can adapt it so that the kids have a special performance just for them that they're going to understand. So on this list, I put together the 10 best close-up tricks of all time when performing for children. If you want to follow this list, great. If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. But understand that I think it's important for any close-up magician to be able to perform confidently for kids, because that way you're going to become an all-round better performer. And when you find yourself in a situation where there are kids there, you're going to be able to perform for them. But here we go. This is the 10 best close-up tricks for kids. Let's get into it. In 10th place, I'm going to say coins across. I'm not talking three fly, I'm talking coins across, where the coins jump from one hand to the other, or the coins jump from your hand into the spectator's hands. Now, there's a million different ways of actually doing this. If you want my personal favorite, it's finally flipped from the Mirage coin set, or flipped out from my flipped out DVD, which is flipped across, which is the coins across using a flipper, or the coins across using the Mirage flipper from the Mirage coin set. Both of those routines are great because they're super visual. And one of the things that I like to make sure is happening when I'm performing for kids is I like to make sure that the magic that I'm doing is really visual. And the nice thing about using a flipper when you're doing a coins across is it's the only way that I really know of where you can focus on the vanish. Because if you're using like just 4 coins, you've got to hold one back, so you can't show that there's 4 coins here because there's only 3, so you've got to close your hand around it. Even if you're doing an extra coin, and you're working one ahead. You've still got to, you've still got to palm that coin out beforehand. Even if you're using a shell, you have to close your hand to nest the shell unless you're doing like a 3-fly thing. But with a flipper coin, you can have 4 coins displayed in your hand. You can gently throw them up in the air, and they see one of them blink out of existence. Now, a lot of the time, I like to include a glass with this as well, because I love the audible moment of the coin dropping into the glass. So my favorite way of doing this would be to use a flipper coin and use a flipped across style presentation, but have them go into a glass. So you should watch the 4 coins, you see it vanish, and you hear it go into the glass each and every time. Kids love coins across. It's a very simple premise to understand. I'm going to make these 4 coins go from here to here, one by one, and you will hear them land in the glass, and you will see them vanish from over here. It's a very simple premise to understand, whether you're a 3-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old or an adult. You're going to understand the premise, and you're going to find it very impressive. And I think that's the important thing. I mentioned this before. Any trick that you do, it needs to be something that's as impressive for the adults as it is for the kids. And I find it funny a lot of the time when I'm at an event and I've been performing for the adults, and then there's a bunch of kids there and there's a couple of adults with them, and I go over and perform for this group and I focus it on the kids, but I'm making sure that I'm doing something that the adults will enjoy as well. And I have the adults come up to me and go, "Never seen a magician like you. I thought it was just going to be for the kids. That was amazing. I enjoyed it just as much as the kids did," that sort of thing. But yeah, so in 10th position, we've got coins across, any coins across, but if you want to know my personal favorite, it'll be flipped across or finally flipped with a glass. That's a really great routine to perform for children. In 9th place, we have Bricked Out by Athian Friday. Now, Bricked Out is based on a very old trick and was released a couple of years ago by San Diego Magic Company. Ryland performs it all of the time. I love performing it. I don't do it as much as Ryland, but I do it an awful lot. And what's really great about this is it uses Lego. Now, a lot of the time when you're performing magic for kids, you want to do something that they can relate to. Now, that might be the prop that you're using they can relate to, or it could be the presentation that you're using they can relate to. In this case, every kid in the world that I know of loves Lego. And even if they're not a Lego fan, they're going to have friends at school that love Lego. They're all going to know what Lego is, right? And what you have with this trick is you have a little box, and inside it, there's a whole bunch of different colored bricks. You tip them out and you have them pick a color, and they're all different colors, and you have them pick a color. They end up picking red, and when you open up your hand, all of the bricks have turned red, and those bricks are examinable. And then you put them away in the box, you put the lid on, and you're reset, ready to go again at the next table. Now, that is quick, it's visual, it's impressive, and it uses objects that the kids can relate to. All of these things are really important when performing close-up magic for kids. You want to make it very clear. You don't want to have a convoluted presentation that's kind of like, right, okay, now deal 5 packs of cards, now deal this, now do this, now do that. It's very direct. I've got Lego here, they're all different colors, name a color, boom, job done, right? It's very, very clear, very direct. That's why I love Bricked Out so much. That, and the fact that as soon as you bring out this little Lego box and you go, who here likes Lego? And the adults, you can look at the adults and you can go, honestly, be honest, who here has got too much of this stuff in their house? And any parent will go, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say about this. Bricked Out is fantastic. It's very easy to do, but it's very direct, very clear, very visual. And you'll see a pattern through a lot of these tricks in that colors work really well with kids. So anytime you're using colors, that's always a really strong thing to be able to do. So there you go. In 9th place, we've got Bricked Out. Let's move on to number 8. In 8th position, you've got the Chop Cup. I think that cups and balls is a little bit too much for kids to follow. I think that they can follow it for sure, but a lot of the time it's a little bit too much, and it's a lot to carry around in a close-up gig. But with a Chop Cup, in my opinion, is amazing. Now, again, you could just use a normal Chop Cup, or you could borrow a cup and use Chop Chop is absolutely amazing. My favorite chop cup, if you're going to perform this primarily for kids, my favorite chop cup is one that Ryland uses, that he got from the Magic Circle convention this year. And he's recently started using it, and it's so beautiful. It's by a Glum, I think it is, and it's a candy cup, so it's really vividly coloured. It's like turquoise, and it says candy cup in there, and it's made out of leather, and instead of using a ball, it's like a starburst sweet, which is great because you can say, hey, who here likes sweets? And again, just like the Lego thing, every kid is going to say yes. Half of the battle with kids is the hook line. The hook line is so important. Now, what I mean by the hook line is what you say to grab the kid's attention. So if I go, hey, who here likes playing cards? Kids aren't going to say that they like playing cards. They're not even going to know what a pack of cards is a lot of the time. But if I go, hey, who here likes sweets? That's a great hook because every kid knows what a sweet is. Every kid likes sweets. So when Ryland does this, he goes, who likes sweets? I love sweets. This is my candy cup. I ate most of the sweets on the way here. I've only got this one here. Can you examine it? Can you check it out? Okay, we're going to play a little game. I'm going to try and get that underneath that cup. Did you see me do it? No, let's do it again. Oh my God. And then you go into the routine, right? And the candy keeps going underneath the cup and keeps going underneath the cup. And then for the finale, you get a lemon, you get a lime, and then you get a ton of candy. Love this trick. Absolutely love this trick. I really do. Chop cup in general is great. If you've just got a normal chop cup, if you don't want to go to the expense of getting like a candy cup and you want to just use a normal chop cup, or you want to use chop by myself, that's fine. Again, the whole routine is perfect because it's visual and it's happening very, very quickly. And the other thing is there's repetition built into a chop cup, which is really important because, you know, hey, it's going to go under the cup. Look, it's gone under the cup again. Look, it's gone underneath the cup again. Now it's on top of the cup. That sort of stuff is really important. And the reason it's really important is because kids love repetition. My daughter Thea will watch the same episode of Barbie or Paw Patrol like 100 times and not get bored. And the reason she won't get bored is because she knows what's coming up and she's excited about what's coming up. Well, it's the same thing with a magic trick. If you perform a magic trick, once they understand what's going to happen, they've got the anticipation. So they're excited for it to happen again and again. And you get that with a chop cup. So it's quick, it's visual. If you get the right type of cup, it's something that they can relate to, but it's also, you know, that repetition's built in, and then you've got that big finale. And, you know, going back to the coins across that I talked about earlier on, you produce a jumbo coin in front of kids, they're just going to want to look at it, they're going to want to hold it, they're going to want to run around with it, they're going to want to keep it. It's the same with a chop cup. You make that lemon or that lime appear, or you make that final load appear, that's all they're going to look at. So it's why I've put it in number 8. So in 8th position, go and get yourself a chop cup or chop or something like that and go and perform that because kids will love it. Right, in 7th position, I have Tactic by Lawrence Villager. Now, Tactic is something myself and Ryland reviewed on the review show recently. Ryland performs this in almost every single show. Tactic basically is a card revelation inside some Tic Tacs. Now, normally I wouldn't suggest doing a card revelation because I don't really suggest doing card tricks for kids. But there are a couple of exceptions on this list, and the first one is this. So the whole idea is you have somebody pick a card, they're going to pick the 7 of diamonds, and then you show this packet of Tic Tacs, and when you shake it, there's green and orange Tic Tacs in there, and when you shake it, the Tic Tacs have rearranged themselves into a 7 and a diamond. That's it. Now, the reason this works is because when you have the person or the kid pick the card, a lot of the time there's an adult there, so if they don't know what the card is, you can get the adult to show them. You can get the you can say, hey, can you help them remember that card? But if you want to, worst case scenario, if you're just performing to some little kids and you're worried they won't remember the card, you can turn that card face up and you can say, right, that's a 7. Do you see that 7 there? And that's a diamond. You see that diamond shape? That's the card. Okay, you could have picked any card. You picked the 7 of diamonds. Watch this. Boom. And then you rearrange the Tic Tacs. So again, it's visual. It's quick. And it uses an object that the kids can relate to, which is Tic Tacs, which is why it's such a great trick. And don't let the fact that it's a playing card trick put you off. Kids can enjoy playing cards if it's done in the right way. Reset, it's not on this list, but Reset is a perfect example because it's not about what the cards are. It's not about picking a card and remembering it. It's about these cards changing places with these cards. So there's certain card tricks that work really well regardless of the age of the kids. And this is one that does. It's called Tactic. You can get it from all good magic dealers. It's really good. Okay, so in sixth position, I'm going to go with Red by Edouard Boulanger. Now, I've talked about Red an awful lot on this channel. I have even done a Hows and Whys of Red in the last few weeks, which you can go and check out. And I put a bunch of routines together that you can use Red for. Red is basically a sponge ball routine where you have, you know, the easiest way to use it is to do the classic sponge ball routine where ball jumps from there over to there, but you get a syringe and you can use the syringe to take the ball apparently out of their hand and squeeze it into the other person's hand, and it looks so good. It really does. It's quick, it's direct. The magic happens in the hand of the kid when they open up their hand and there's two balls there. It's amazing. Sponge balls in general works really well for children because they're big, you can see them from a distance, they're visual. Kids love it when things vanish and reappear and jump from one place to another. And again, they love it when there's repetition, so when lots of phases happening, they love it, especially when it's quick and it's visual. But you combine Red in with this and it lets them see the moment it happens. You know, you can actually see, you know, kids have got a great imagination. And when you pull that red ball out of their hand and you show it's inside this syringe, they lose their mind. They really do. So, yeah, you could do a lot worse than getting Red by Edouard Boulanger. I'm not going to talk about this anymore because, as I said, I did Hows and Whys on Red. But if you want a really strong trick that you can perform to kids that they're going to love, go check it out. Red by Edouard Boulanger, and it's only available directly through his website. Okay, so in fifth place, we have Laced Up by Penguin Magic and Donovan Mount. Kids love anything where they can relate to the object that you're using, as I said. With laces, it's perfect because most kids are they're either about to learn how to tie shoelaces, they're in the middle of learning to tie shoelaces, or they've learned how to tie shoelaces. So when you do magic that involves shoelaces, they're going to sit up and pay attention, right? And Laced Up is perfect because you're doing magic with shoelaces, so they're going to be able to relate to it. They understand about tying a bow in shoelace. They get all of that. But then you've got that moment where you're moving the shoelaces down to the bottom, taking it off, putting it back on again, making it go back together. Such an incredible moment, it really is. But again, just like with most of the routines on this list, if an adult is watching it, they're going to get blown away as well. So if you're performing it to an adult, they're going to be like, whoa, that's amazing. But if you're performing it to kids, they're going to love it even more because it's very, very relatable. It's also very different to anything else that you've seen before. It's not something disappearing and appearing. It's not a card trick. It's not a coin trick. It's not a sponge ball trick. It's nothing like that. It's something really unique and really different that people won't have seen coming, but is really strong and visual. And because if you do the full routine, there's a few different phases. Again, you've got that repetition aspect that kicks in as well. So there you go. You've got Laced Up by Donovan Mount and Penguin Magic. Okay, so I know that a lot of people are going to tell me that I've lost my mind when I tell you what fourth place is, but I don't care. I'm going to explain why I think this is the case. In fourth place, we have an ESP Matchup routine. Now, I know you're going to think that I'm crazy, right? Because kids don't know what ESP symbols are, and so it's going to be a little bit complicated for them. And in that respect, I agree. However, and this is a plug for my own project a little bit, and I'm very sorry about that, but Cube 52 has a couple of different handlings of ESP matchup routines. You've got like the classic ESP matchup, you've got the one ahead ESP matchup. Peter Nardi goes through a couple of jazz ESP matchup routines as well. And the thing about doing an ESP matchup routine with colors, kids can relate to colors. They know what colors are. Any age, because you learn your colors very early on. But colors are so much easier to relate to than ESP symbols. But the way that Cube 52 works is the cards are marked so that you know what the colors are immediately. So because of that, it allows you to very, very quickly take out a deck and say, hey, I've got these, even if they don't know what Rubik's Cubes are, which they will, you just bring out the deck and say, so this is a deck of cards I got from a shop. It's all based on Rubik's Cubes, but the cards have got different colors on them. I'm going to take a red for you and a red for me, a yellow for you, a yellow for me, a white for you, a white for me, orange for you, orange for me, green for you, green for me, blue for you, blue for me. You take yours, mix them up, I'll mix mine up, and now you're into it. But because you're using ESP symbols, because you're not using ESP symbols, sorry, and you're using colors, the kids can relate to how impossible it is of what you're doing. You say, hey, we're going to play a little game called Match the Colors, and I'm going to try and make it so that every single color matches, which would be impossible, right? But that's what I'm going to try. And you can set this and frame this by giving two packets to two different kids and having them play the game for real and seeing how many matchups they get. And you go, oh, you only had one matchup. Well, I'm going to see, I never lose at this game. I always win. And I'm going to show you why. Watch this. And then you go into the actual thing. And kids are very competitive, especially when it comes to games, especially if they've got siblings. Sibling rivalry is major. So you then say, you use the premise or the hook. And again, we're back about the importance of the hook. You use the hook of, hey, I'm going to show you how I always win at games. Here we go, watch this. You're going to grab people's attention immediately. So any ESP matchup routine or jazz matchup routine, but the ones specifically taught on Cube 52, the ones that I tend to go for, and using those Cube 52 color cards, it just makes it instantly more relatable. Okay, so in second place, we are going to go with a color changing deck. One of the perennial classics for kids entertainers is the coloring routine, where a picture colors in. And what's really great about a coloring routine is that kids can relate to coloring in. Kids love coloring in. When I do my kids show, I always say, hey, who likes coloring in? Who likes coloring in on paper? Who likes coloring in coloring in books? Who likes coloring in on their grandparents' living room walls? Well, I'm going to show you how to do magic coloring. And I frame it as I'm teaching them how to do magic. You've got a couple of killer hooks there. The first hook is, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do magic. Every kid wants to learn how to do magic, but the second hook is that you're going to be doing magic coloring, right? Now, if you can take that magic coloring concept and bring it close up, well, now you're going to grab those kids' attention just as well as you would do in the middle of a kid's show. But again, it's a routine that if adults are watching, they're going to find it very impressive as well, because a color-changing deck routine is as impressive to the adults as it is to the kids. Now, the question then becomes which color-changing deck routine to do. And look, there's a million out there. Pick your favorite. Now, the one that I always do is I've got a trick coming out with Alakazam at some point in the next 6 months called Palettes, which is designed specifically to perform for kids, because well, it's not. I mean, Peter Nardi does it for adults, but you could do it. I do it primarily for kids. And whenever I'm at a gig, where I have this with me at every gig, and whenever there's like a table of kids, I always bring this out and do it, because the whole idea is that I can show the cards, I can have them all. It's a blue deck, it's just a normal blue deck, and I have 4 or 5 kids pick cards, and I have a completely free choice, and I show the backs of every card and I put them face up on the table. I then put the deck to one side and I go through this whole thing of having this invisible paintbrush, and they wave each kid. I do this one by one with each kid. They wave it over the card, and when they do, it changes into a completely different color. And the last kid, I get them to put the invisible paintbrush on the pack, and as I show that their cards change color as well. And then you kind of got that magician in trouble scenario where you go, oh no, I left it on the pack of cards. And then when you take the cards out of the case and spread, all of the cards are now changed to a rainbow deck, and everything is completely examinable. And it's just a beautiful routine. It's called Palettes. It's coming out through Alakazam at some point. It got filmed about 6 to 8 months ago, but at some point it will come out. But it's a wonderful routine. It really is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful routine. But any color-changing deck works really well, because kids can relate to something changing color. And when you tell them that they're going to do it by magic, they get really excited over that. So there you go. In second place, you've got, I'm going to suggest Palette, but any color changing deck will work really well if you're performing for kids. And then finally, you have first place. And in first place, you have the Ambitious Card, specifically by David Regal. Now, I said there was going to be a couple of card routines in this list. This is the second one. I think that the Ambitious Card, the way that David Regal performs it, is one of the greatest tricks for kids ever. In fact, I've actually done this trick in my stage show for kids. It's great for family shows as well. But it's one of those routines where adults will love it because it's the Ambitious Card. But kids will also love it as well because of the presentation. Here's the thing, if you do an Ambitious Card for kids, they'll like it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. When that card comes to the top of the deck, they'll like it. But you do David Regal's version of it, even better. And all that David does is he has someone pick a card and he says, right, okay, can you draw a dog on it? So they draw a dog on the card. You can even get them to write the name of the dog on the card as well if you want to. And then all you have to do is the card goes down in the middle and you get the kid to call the dog's name. So what was the dog's name? Fido, right? Okay, all you have to do is say, here boy, here Fido. And you're getting the kid to call the name of the card, the name of the dog that they draw on the card. And when you do, you turn it over and that card has now come to the top and you do it over and over and over again. And you can go watch David's full presentation of it, absolutely. You can go buy it if you want to. It's in his book and it's also on one of his L&L DVDs. But the point is, if you're not going to buy it, just understanding the concept of doing an Ambitious Card, taking your existing Ambitious Card routine and changing it around so that it's going to be a puppy that you draw that keeps coming to the top of the deck. Instantly, every single kid is going to hang off your every word because they're there. Again, it comes down to repetition. They're waiting for you to ask them to call the dog's name, and they get more and more animated each time. And I've done this on tables of kids and adults, and I've had the kids literally laughing their ass off. The parents are confused, like, what's going on? How's that card coming to the top of the deck? But the kids are just loving it as well. It's why it's first place. If I had a table of kids and I was told I had to perform to that table of kids and I could only do one trick, it would be David Regal's Ambitious Card. It's that good. So there you go, guys. That is a list of the 10 best close-up tricks for kids. Now, do me a favor, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you do any of these tricks? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are there tricks that should have been on this list that I didn't put on the list? I'd love to know. Let's get a dialogue going down below. More importantly, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. You want to see more videos, that is. And also, don't forget to go and join the Nettrix. It's www.thenettrix.com. That's www.thenettrix.com. Go and check it out and see what all the fuss is about. Guys, thank you once again for joining me. I will see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.